Hey guys, I'm aka Mustached, here to review the movie Hotel Transylvania Transformania. If you end up enjoying this full review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my Discord, the second to my Patreon, and the third to my PayPal. Any donations are greatly appreciated and will allow me to continue making content, and I'll remind you of the shilling at the end of the review. So, I don't know if I've expressed this in the previous Hotel Transylvania movies. I believe I've seen all four at this point. But if I haven't expressed it yet, I will express it here. I believe that Hotel Transylvania would have served a lot better as a series rather than a set of movies, as the set of movies has such a large cast of characters and potential for side stories and stories about the other characters, as well as, again, just dealing with all the other little hijinks that are potentially active throughout the movies, kind of always get sidelined through whether that be the main plot or something or other, or just it being cut off by it just being the joke. And I do feel like that does and has been the disdain of Hotel Transylvania throughout its four movies, is that it's always felt like that, particularly after the first movie. It felt like after that it should have just put itself as a series with seasons instead of being movies, as again a lot of their characters kind of get these little side plots, as I mentioned, and they kind of just get left in a dot of like, it's not an actual story thread, or that's not an actual story beat. Oh, okay. I'll give an example later on in the review. And consequentially enough, this movie actually suffers the exact opposite problem. Well, it kind of suffers in both ways for a lot of different things, but we'll get to that. And I guess, I'll talk about it now, since I'll probably be talking about the plot next. I forget if it was the second or third Hotel Transylvania movie where they had what's her name, Johnny and Mavis have the kid, and their kid likes that little wolf girl. It's like this little cute crush side story, or I thought it was going to be like a cute little mini side story throughout the second and third movie. If he was in the second movie, I don't remember. I think he was. Point being that they started a little, crush thing for the young character, and then it proceeded in the third movie, and it's here as well, but it's, delegated to one scene, and that's it. And I don't know, it feels like all the other characters, too, have these, little mini, things about them when they're transformed into humans. The father apparently gets a break because he's a human, and the wife gets all the overload of the wolf kids. Frankenstein's monster, gets turned into a hunk, and he gets to appreciate being good looking. The mummy gets to be old, and the invisible man is naked, and the gelatin is just jelly, and Dracula has to unfortunately suffer the most, as we'll get to into the plot of this movie. And I do feel, as I progress through these events, that the more and more it unfolds, the more and more I should say, you really do start to feel bad for his plight. I mean, yes, he did make a mistake, but the amount that he goes through does seem a little bit of overkill. But we'll get to that right now. So the movie starts off with a little bit of a little sing-along music thing with Dracula, now played by a different actor, by the way. I forgot what the actor's name is, but he does the voice well enough. Point being that I think everyone else reprised their roles. I'm not sure if that's the case, but whatever. That's not what we're here to discuss. But Johnny cuts in the song as if to say, like, he's still the new guy in the relationship, even though they've been in together for now 3 movies, and I still don't feel like I have a handle on their relationship even after the 2nd and 3rd movie. Which, again, is to say, yeah, I barely remember their relationship. It doesn't feel like it was that well established. It feels as well established as, say, I don't know, new Spider-Man and Mary Jane, or whatever her name is in that movie. Like, their relationship just starts in the newest one. I feel like that does hinder on the previous movies not establishing a whole lot, or, just like framing a potential, but like here it's the same, or even potentially worse. I'm not sure which, but point being is that I feel like their relationship is very poorly defined, or just, I don't know, it feels extremely rushed, if anything else. And me not remembering, I don't remember where their relationship was even established, whether that was in the 2nd or 3rd movie, or even in the 1st movie. I don't even remember if Johnny was in the 1st movie. That's my problem, is that these sort of movies like this, where there's so many characters, it becomes harder and harder to to put together the pieces here of like where things start and end. And I do feel like, again, that is sort of on the fault of the writing throughout these movies, is that, the time delegated to, say, a character is significantly reduced because of how large this cast is. Again, I feel like a series could help delegate that, because you could have, say, an episode dedicated to, say, like the Mummy, or like the Wolf Guy, or like Frankenstein's monster. You could have dedicated episodes to like each of them, and you can actually start to flesh out their characters, have them go through different sort of like little problems and issues and transformations, and have little character arcs. And it would probably feel a lot more natural in a series rather than, again, a set of movies where, again, it feels so condensed where you barely remember what the character even is. And again, I do feel like that also hurts the main characters as well. Again, Mavis and her relationship, it feels ill-defined. It feels like they're just suddenly, like, ready to be married or something, and it doesn't feel like they've even barely got past the dating phase, and we're already jumping the gun here. Anyways, so, Dracula, speaking of rushing things, feels like he's ready to retire. But Johnny overhears it thanks to Mavis, and overthanks or pre-thanks Dracula, and due to this, Dracula freaks out thinking about all the things that Johnny will do. Because Johnny, due to the party that, he sort of put himself into, sort of overdid it a little bit. And, Mavis seemed fine with everything kind of falling apart slightly. But Drac had enough and froze everything, at least briefly. but Mavis was not effective, so the two have a chat about it. So, Dracula lies in the proceeding of thinking about, Johnny and that whole prospect. So he decides to create a little white lie and decides to say that they are going to expand the hotel by a little bit. Anyways, a dance party ensues, where we have a cameo appearance by Ninja for some reason. I don't know. Anyways, this in the dance party scene is exactly what I'm talking about too, is that we have like this one moment where the two little kids I was just talking about, and I don't even remember their names, that's how forgettable they are now in this movie. The little wolf girl like gives him a look and he's like, oh geez. It's still at that phase at movie number 4. And again, I get it, they're young, so that aspect seems to line up, but you would think that they would sort of continue that trend, or like, again, move it somewhere, or like, have it be something, capitalize it with something, but nope. That's the end of their whole shtick. Well, they're in other parts of the movie, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Anyways, so he bumps into Erica, his crush/girlfriend, Dracula does, and they have a little talk about, the whole switcheroo, and he gets freaked out and starts to try to hide, and Johnny, overhearing that since he's not a monster, and kind of overbears his talk with Van Helsing, who I believe was in the previous movie as well. And so Van Helsing brings him to this lab where he has this device/MacGuffin that can turn him into a monster, or a monster into a human, which causes this whole thing to occur. So Dracula continues to hide, and Johnny is turned into a dragon-esque type of monster. And he's ready to tell Mavis that he's all ready and stuff. But as he is sort of fumbling to get back, the device special shoots itself into the water as Drac is trying to turn him back, and he's like, all that crazy stuff. Oh, I did write his name in the notes, the little kid boy, Danis, Danis, I believe his name is, sort of runs off with the little wolf girl. So they're like in a party with like all these other creatures, like this big dog thing and all these other mini things that sort of follow them around. And we'll get back to them, I guess, a little bit later. So Dracula, seeing them, bumps into this crew of young delinquents, and he uses his power on the two of them. And so, whenever we see them throughout the rest of the movie, they are possessed by him. So that's what I mean, is that their character little crush thing that they had is like, whoop, gone throughout the rest of the movie. Anyways, through the misfortune of reflections, Dracula gets hit with the ray as well and gets turned into a human. So he tells his main crew not to tell Mavis as he's outside. But the MacGuffin also manages to also have a device locator thingy on it. All the while, inside, the rest of the monsters drink the now greenish water, turning them all human as well. So, Drac and Johnny head off to try to switch him back because the little device crystal thing is broken. They need a new one. And they need to go on a perilous journey to get another new one to power it up. But all the meanwhile, one of the gremlins flying them there pranks Dracula, which is the first of many things that begins Dracula's torment throughout the rest of the movie. And again, this is all based on his little white lie. And already we're getting him suffering pretty poorly as he gets sick in the air and then gets proceeded to get, shot out of the airplane, and then he's like on a rope being like dangled there outside. So that's suffering moment number 1. So let's keep count, shall we? Anyways, we cut back to Mavis, who finds the note that she was suspicious of overhearing his talk anyways, so she already knew what he was actually going to say, but now she actually knows it for realsies. And she bumps into the kids and who are still in a trance, and for whatever reason she doesn't put them out of the trance, which I find bizarre. I would think that she would also have the same powers, as well as the abilities to remove said powers of Dracula, but she doesn't do it for some reason. I don't know. Anyways, we cut back to Dracula, who gets to feel the warmth of the sun for the first time, and also gets to know the suffering of looking at the sun for too long. So that's suffering moment number 2. It's not terribly bad, but, little burn. I'll still count it. Anyway, Johnny gets to burn a taxi, or, learn that he has fire breath at the very most, when he tries to attempt to call for a taxi. Anyway, we cut back to discover that the guinea pig they used beforehand is getting bigger and gets on the loose, while this whole kerfuffle is also going on. But as this is all going on, the party of guys gets discovered by their wives / girlfriends. I'm not sure what their other I'm gonna just say wives just to keep it simplistic. So they all know what's going on at this point. And they're all a little bit freaked out now that all the our guys are turned into humans. So Mavis sees this change on the news. Apparently they Dracula and Johnny were being recorded on the news, and she just happens to be watching the news and finds this out. So no, she definitely knows that something is going on that's more than meets the eye. Anywho, Dracula falls behind as a human now, while Johnny just breezes on ahead as a monster. So as they're walking through, these little things start attacking Dracula, so he gets to suffer a third time in the movie. Just trying to keep up with Johnny. So Mavis and the wives check in with Van Helsing, and they see that, or I believe it's just Dracula's girlfriend, and they check in with Van Helsing to see that the monster has grown or escaped at the very most. So now we have another moment where we cut back to Dracula as he's getting swatted by, or getting by mosquitoes, and he gets to suffer for the 5th time in the movie. And at this point, 5 times, and I've noticed a great deal of emphasis being missed on Johnny's problem in the movie. And I do think that this is the movie's greatest fall of not recognizing that Johnny had something to learn too, and he doesn't in the movie. And that's a huge missed opportunity. to have, your lead characters, it's, when there's something very obvious to learn, and it's only Dracula that has to go through this alone. I mean, yeah, he lied, but making him suffer 5 times and have Johnny go through nothing. I mean, look, a static character can be a good character, but when there's something really obvious that they can work on and probably could work on and maybe should work on, you probably have an opportunity to do so. And when you have an opportunity to do so, I don't see why you can't. And that's, for Johnny to learn to calm down a bit. He was a little bit overkill at the party. That is technically what did start Dracula's freakout in the first place. So he did have something to technically learn in this movie, but nothing of consequence comes of Johnny's way, and it does feel like, again, that's a huge wasted opportunity. So, Erica and Mavis bring in the crew along as they travel in. And they use echolocator, at least Mavis does, to echolocate the two of them, Jack and Johnny. So, Johnny, during his transformation, because of course he's also transforming, gets wings. So he gets to save Dracula from falling. So that's another Dracula suffering because he nearly falls to his death. But they sit at a campfire, and this is where Johnny gets to show off the message of the movie, at least for Dracula, as this using a marshmallow as a metaphor of, when he burns the marshmallow, he talks about how, the darkness represents the burnt marshmallow and the negative thoughts, but in the inside, when you look hard enough, you can find the light or the good in a situation. So, pretty blatant stuff here. Nothing wrong with it, but, it is what it is. So Johnny gets a little bit of the discovery of what Drac has been trying to hide as Mavis begins to just find them. So during this enragement, Johnny transforms further. So Mavis goes after a new, more monstrous Johnny. And there is a line here that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and it could be a subjective thing, but I gave it some thought. I'm not sure where I would line this up, but she kind of goes off here on Dracula, and it did rub me the wrong way. There was something definitely really weird about it. It definitely felt like that moment wasn't deserved at all. I mean, I get she was a little upset at him, but I forget what her exact line was. I wish I wrote it down word for word, because it definitely came across as a little bit of overkill, to say what she said to Dracula. Anyway, Mavis confronts Monster Johnny while Drac and crew are looking for the gem thing in this crystal cave, and they all seemingly get in a boat ride of, torturous intent. This could count for another one on Dracula, but he goes further in the cave as Mavis starts to pull it, try to get to, Monster Johnny, while the Dracula crew get lost in the crystal cave. So Johnny, now being brought back over, breaks in, and Mavis, seeing the crystal break due to Johnny's efforts, sees the red crystal, goes for it, and eventually, through some maneuvering, hits Johnny. In the process, nothing seems to happen, but Dracula is grabbed. Therefore, Dracula now must recite all the things, or the thing that he learned from the marshmallow metaphor, back to Johnny, which snaps Johnny back to at least regular eyes, which I guess gives him the ability to transform fully back into a human. I guess that's how that works. I don't know. And of course, transform all the others back into monsters as well. And as they're making their way back, Drac talks about how Johnny was his light, because beforehand he had nothing but darkness, which, again, also doesn't fit on his part, because that doesn't make any sense, because he has his daughter as well. So, I'm not buying that one either, from him. But Dracula does talk to them, and right before he can fully give them the hotel, they find that it is destroyed by the new transformed monster, but he gives them the key regardless, and I guess they just transform it back into the thing. It doesn't really show us, but I guess we're just supposed to assume that it does. As supposedly 1 year passes, but no one seems to change in any significant way. Even the wolf wife is still pregnant, so I guess she just happened to have another kid, ? I don't know. Point being is that they made some new renovations, which we kind of get to see in a weird new art or different art style as the movie comes to its credits. And that's the end of Hotel Transylvania Transformania. And yes, that is that. And yeah, as much as I've been saying it, it still remains to be true, is that, I don't know, this movie feels extremely one-sided for a movie that, in its very, cover seems to be indicating this sort of dual, split thing going on, but only one character gets to learn something. Again, that feels like it kind of goes against the whole point of the movie. Not to mention that they make a reference to, Freaky Friday, which is, I think, one of the most original versions of, two people switching bodies, I want to say. I'm not gonna say it's the original, but it's definitely one of the earlier ones I can think of. Point being is that both characters in that movie learned something, and they were able to transform back at some point near the end of the movie, obviously. But yeah, that is the expected recipe for that type of movie. If you're going to do a Freaky Friday type of movie, both of the characters should learn something. That is, again, sort of the anticipated result of that type of archetype of a movie, and subverting it only to make Dracula suffer, it actually makes the comedy suffer extremely poorly. Because instead of laughing at Dracula's pain, you kind of start to just feel bad for him as these worse and worse things seem to just happen to him. And Johnny, again, there doesn't seem to be anything confronting him. He seems to get off scot-free, and I don't feel like that's fair. Even though, again, his party shenanigans is what started this whole kerfuffle, so he should have learned something. Again, the key operative of both of them learning something is definitely the crux of what's missing in this film. And again, it also feels like, as a general premise of how many characters are in this movie, in sets of movies, that Hotel Transylvania, after the first movie, it should have just jumped into a series. It shouldn't have kind of tried to make all these other movies. I don't feel like they should have definitely just had several seasons of little mini hijinks and little character moments. I think that would have served this franchise, I guess I'll call it, a lot better than what we have here. Because what we have here isn't particularly great. And I feel like that's also present in the second and third movie, because I remember those movies not being that great either. So, as a general score, I'm gonna probably give this movie like a 3 out of 10. Not particularly high, because it gets too much wrong. And, even as a comedy, again, even on that level, it still fails a lot because of its structure and the way it's trying to do its comedy. And again, these little character moments where you think that there's going to be like a new little side story or like a continuation from the previous movies, they just end with no set of resolution or like little cute moment. Like the little wolf girl, I don't know, gets to like kiss the little boy on the cheek or something, like a little crush moment. Like, that's where I think their relationship ought to be at this point, at this stage. So why not have done that by now? It seems like that's where they are, so put them there. Don't tease a little moment and then completely write them out of the movie. Again, it feels like you could have cut the kids out of the movie at that point, at that rate, because they're inconsequential to the movie. They don't add anything to the movie. Again, you could remove them and nothing would change in the movie, because they do so little in it. And even, the husbands here, I guess since they turn into humans, and, they kind of get forced to tag along again, so, I can kind of say at that one, but, so yeah, that's where I am with this movie. Again, a 3 out of 10. So, if you ended up enjoying this full review of Hotel Transylvania Transformania, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my Discord, second will head you over to my Patreon, third will head you over to my PayPal. Any donations are greatly appreciated and will help me make more content and help me support this channel in general, and so on and so forth. So, until next time, everyone, bye-bye!